Well, everybody, the offseason is officially upon us, meaning it's about time to do what I did last year, being listing off the worst player at every MLB position. Now, this season I wanted to refine my rules a little bit. I am strictly only going to be considering players that played at least 54 games, or a third of the season, with 75% of them at least needing to be played at the position I selected them for. This is so I can still consider slash line stats without it being borderline unfair due to a small sample size. I am aware that some players will play far less in those actual games, so I tried to fold that into my thinking when comparing potential candidates. As for pitchers, I chose to require roughly the equivalent in time on the mound, being in my opinion 70 innings for starters and 25 for relievers. With that being said, let's hop right into it. We begin behind the plate with Connor Wong. I'm pretty sure if you are a Red Sox fan watching in 2025, this is going to come as no surprise at all. But for all of those who weren't necessarily aware, I'm going to list all the categories that Wong was last in among Major League catchers: BWAR, home runs, RBI, slugging percentage, OPS, OPS plus, and total bases. This dude didn't register even a single dinger, despite taking 188 at-bats, and to top it all off, he was terrible defensively as well. Truly bizarre stuff from a dude who managed to post an OPS last year of 758. At first base, we have Michael Toglia of the Rockies, who actually brings with him the lowest WAR we're going to be looking at today at negative 1.7. How do you even manage to post that through 88 games? How about by registering a slash line of 190, 258, 353 with just 11 home runs and 28 walks to 132 strikeouts, all while taking the majority of your at-bats in Coors Field. This actually led to an OPS plus that was almost 20 points worse than the next closest, at a mark of 61. Yet, even with this horrible performance at the plate, he arguably was even worse at the field, at negative 8 fielding run value, a pace that would have him on track to threaten for the league lead had he managed to play enough contests. Another Red Sox player, Christian Campbell, is my choice for second base. This might surprise some people because he only ended up playing until June before being sent back down for the rest of the year, but in the time he was up, he managed to register one of the worst defensive performances we've ever seen, with negative 10 FRV through just 541 innings, having him on pace to put up as many as negative 25 in a full season. Add in the fact that he slashed just 223, 319, 345 with 16 extra base hits and horrible batted ball data, and honestly, it's hard to think of a prospect whose stock dropped more in 2025 than Campbell's. Now, before we go any further, hold on for a sec. If you do want to skip, I'm going to put the timestamp on screen right now. That's how confident I am that this sponsor could actually get you some value, because it's one that I've been using for almost 2 years now. Here's the proof. Rocket Money. Now, the thing I love about Rocket Money is it gives me a great little snapshot of all of my spending, right? But on top of that, it also allows me to continually check my subscriptions. I'm somebody who signs up for a lot of those free subscription packages, and because of that, I get some value, but I also end up having bouts where they will continue to renew, and then I'll lose some money on the back end. With Rocket Money, that issue's pretty much gone away. They do have a free feature, so I think that that's a great place to start, but if you wanted to try their premium, which again I've had for almost 2 years now and I've gotten a lot of value off of, it's a relatively low cost, and there's a 7-day free trial for you to go ahead and experiment with it. As you can tell, most of this is just off the cuff and not read off of a script, because I do actually use this sponsor and get a lot of real world value out of it. So I really appreciate Rocket Money sponsoring this video, and if you want to check it out, go ahead and click on either the QR code that's on screen right now or the link that's in the pinned comment or description. Now, back to our video. For the hot corner, among some admittedly pretty thin competition for this spot, I selected Gio Urshela, the once decent Yankee and Twins corner infielder who certainly didn't have the worst batting average ever at 238, but with adjoining numbers that were pretty much across the board horrible, including registering the same number of dingers as Wong, being a fat 0, the only qualified player at his position who did so. This came with an OPS just over 600, a position worst BWAR of negative 1.0, and below average performances in both base running and fielding per Baseball Savant, the latter of which was certainly surprising considering he was coming off of a very good 2024 with the glove. The Tigers' Trey Sweeney slots in here as the worst shortstop, and not by a small margin, having some of the worst overall numbers we've examined so far, including a 53 OPS plus, 548 OPS, 196 average, and just 14 extra base hits through 118 games. But it's not like he lit the world on fire with his hitting in 2024, even if his advanced metrics were significantly better than in 2025. So this wasn't a massive surprise. No, instead, it was his performance with the glove that fits that description better, with a -5 FRV that had him tied for the 4th worst in the entire sport at that position, despite playing significantly less innings than all of those in front of him. It might seem hard to believe, but this guy was once a top prospect just a couple years ago. Left field, to me, is very similar as with catcher, as if you asked Dodger fans what they thought of Michael Conforto in 2025, you would probably get a range of obscenities to describe his performance, and it's not hard to see why. A position worst -0.7 WAR, a 79 OPS+, 199 average, and 333 slug, all posted when his entire mold was supposed to be being a productive hitter first. Further evidenced by his abysmal performance with the glove as well, with a -8 FRV and -5 DRS, each being among the worst at his position. For a guy on the wrong side of 30, time is running out for him to get back to his pre-pandemic form, which at one point saw him crush around 30 homers with an OPS near 800 for 3 straight years. Okay, I want you to buckle up, Guardians fans, because the next 3 selections are all going to be your guys, starting with Angel Martinez, whose counting stats of 23 doubles and 11 home runs do a bit to mask what was, in a bit of an under-the-hood manner, a downright horrible year, one that included -0.7 WAR, a 224, 269, 359 slash, 73 OPS+, and 110 strikeouts to just 23 walks. Add in the fact that he posted -10 DRS and -3 FRV, grading out as one of the worst center fielders in the sport defensively, and you have an outcome that was certainly not great for the 23-year-old in his first full major league season. Right field actually involves a sneaky tough choice, as you can make a decent case for rookie Jack Caglione, who somehow managed to post a 157 batting average and 49 OPS+ through 62 games, or John Kenzie Noel, who, if you can actually believe it, did have worse numbers, to the tune of a position-low 480 OPS, 183 OBP, and 31 OPS+. For me, personally, I'm gonna go with John Kenzie. I mean, it's vanishingly rare you run across an OPS+ that is less than a third of what a typical MLB hitter produces. One last stat that blew me away about Noel is the fact that he somehow walked just 4 times throughout the year, while striking out 52, a ratio of 1 to 13. Just mind-numbingly bad. Funny enough, for being a dude that clocks in at 6'3", 250 pounds, his best attribute was his defense, where he was about league average with a strong throwing arm. Hopefully this gives him some foundation to build on, as he attempts to reestablish a stock that was relatively high after his big postseason home run last year and a near 800 OPS. Now, rounding out our position players, along with our lineup of consecutive Cleveland guys, we have David Fry at DH. In terms of production, he about split the difference between Martinez and Noel, with a -0.8 WAR, 171, 229, 363 slash, and just 12 extra base hits through 66 games. Yes, he dealt with some injuries, but I don't think that does an adequate job of explaining how a guy who managed to make an all-star team with an 804 OPS and 128 OPS+, saw both those numbers drop all the way down to 592 and 61, the latter of which was less than half of the prior year. While his advanced numbers were never crazy good during his time in the big leagues, they were far better than this past year, giving further reason for caution. Unfortunately as well, this past season ended about as badly as a season can for a player, being taking a high-velocity heater right to the face. So hopefully he can find a way to bounce back from that and all of his other ailments in 2026. On to our pitchers, we first have our starters role, and an interesting selection. Now, I'm sure many people would want to point to the duo of German Marquez and Antonio Senzatella, because both had ERAs north of 6.5 and whips over 1.7, but I'm not going to go there, because there actually was a player who somehow had a worse ERA, and crucially here when considering park factors, ERA plus as well, with the worst marks in the entire sport in these regards being posted by Jack Kokonowitz of the Los Angeles Angels. For a guy who actually impressed through 11 starts last year, this level of fall off was certainly a bit stunning, especially because his 605 FIP demonstrated that it wasn't a matter of getting unlucky. The dude was just flat out terrible. What's more, despite the guy having a high 90s heater and dastardly curveball, he only managed to strike out 5.8 batters per 9 while walking 4.7, giving him an abysmal and tied for league worst 1.24 strikeout to walk ratio. Sure, his team's defense was some of the worst we've ever seen on the advanced fronts, but man, even that can't explain away struggles this intense. Our second to last spot of the entire video will be for a relief pitcher, or more accurately, a guy who appeared in at least 80% of their team's games as a reliever while registering less than 10 save opportunities. To me, this one's fairly easy, as there is only one guy who meets these qualifications that posted an ERA north of 8 and a whip over 2. And that was Eduardo Salazar of the Washington Nationals. This dude's numbers on paper don't even look real. 47 hits given up through 29 innings, leading to a 14.6 hits per 9. That was the worst in the league by over 1 full hit per 9, along with nearly as many walks as strikeouts and 7 home runs given up in that limited time. All I can say is that if he's still taking up a spot in that Nationals bullpen come opening day, it'll be hard to take their midseason front office shakeup all that seriously. On to our final position in closer. We have one of the few other guys who managed to rival Salazar's ERA while managing to get into 11 save opportunities, 3 of which he blew, while losing 4 games as well. That guy is Jordan Romano, a 54 ERA plus courtesy of an 8.23 ERA, 10 dingers given up, and a FIP north of 5.3, all of which spelled disaster every time he took the mound, which, unfortunately for the sanity of Philly fans everywhere, was a borderline stunning 49 times last year. His fastball velo dropped by almost a full mile an hour relative to his career norms. His slider lost some of that vital bite that once made it a weapon. And with already suspect control, those two things combined into a mixture that produced a .515 slugging percentage against. Or basically slightly better than what Jose Ramirez posted last year. Alright, that was the worst player at every MLB position. Don't worry, I'll be doing the best players as well, along with videos on every MLB team's worst and best players, trickled in over the course of the offseason. Also, feel free to leave any comments below for similar videos you'd like to see done in this vein. Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in the video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching, have a great rest of your day.